I'm back! Happy Friday! We have 2 more chapters left to read today. So Jack and Annie saved Venice yesterday. Well, kinda saved Venice yesterday, not technically themselves. How did they save Venice? What did they do? How did they get Venice to be saved from the storms? Leave me a comment below and remind yourself. Alright, today's the day when you tell me in your own words what our vocabulary words were. So, here they are. Ba-boom! Canal, gondola, gondolier, grouchy, eerily, prong, Venice. Leave me a comment. Tell me what they mean. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. Oh my gosh, I think I just got dust in my eyeballs. Delightful. That's what I get for being too excited. Okay, so Jack and Annie saved Venice yesterday. Did you remember? Did you remember how they did it? Yeah, they used a stone lion they brought to life with a rhyme. They flew into the middle of the sea, and they called on the god Neptune, who rose up out of the ocean and sucked all the water back down and calmed the storm, which is pretty cool. So I guess they could just imagine Neptune, even though he's technically not real. Nifty, nifty. So now they're heading back. Now the mission's done. Chapter 8, Home by Day. Jack could hear the flapping of wings and the sound of steady breathing. The lion flew in circles above the whirlpool and then soared in a great arc up through the sky. "We're going back!" cried Annie. Jack lowered his head and buried his face in the lion's shaggy, wet mane. He didn't look up. He was too tired to think as he gave himself over to the wondrous flight. The lion carried Jack and Annie back through the dawn. As they glided over the calming sea, the water sparkled with light. By the time the lion reached the skies over Venice, darkness had turned to day. I guess Archie's excited about this part. Shades of lavender glowed above the city's towers, domes, and spires. Venice was veiled in pink light. The lion flew to St. Mark's Square. He glided towards the clock tower, moving more slowly. Then he landed softly like a cat on the terrace of the tower. Jack took a deep breath and stroked the lion's mane. Then they climbed off. Jack's legs felt wobbly. He clutched the lion for a moment. The lion let out a growl and turned his head and licked Jack's hand. His rough tongue felt like sandpaper. Annie laughed, and Jack laughed too as the lion licked her. "You are magnificent," she said. "Yeah," said Jack. "Thanks for the ride." The lion let out a purr. Then he padded away from the two of them into the edge of the terrace. The lion gave Jack and Annie one last look over his shoulder. Then he leapt silently onto the terrace railing and landed on the ledge below. Looking over the railing, they watched him become a statue again. In an instant, his shaggy mane, golden back, powerful legs, tufted tail, and feathered wings turned to stone. "Oh," said Jack sadly, he missed the living lion hiding in the stone. A thundering bong made Jack and Annie jump. Beside them, the 2 bronze men were striking the bell. They struck it 6 times. "It's 6 in the morning," said Annie. "We were gone a long time." "Yeah," said Jack. "Hey, look at the angel weather vane," said Annie. Jack looked up to see the golden angel. The weather vane was turning in the wind and pointed west. "Hey, remember the last line from the poem?" said Annie. "An angel of gold will show you the way, to the sea by night and home by day." "I guess now Venice is safe, the angel is telling us it's time to go," said Jack. "Yup," said Annie. Jack picked up his backpack and they headed down the stairs. When they reached the bottom, they stepped out of the darkness into the bright morning light. Only a few puddles of water dotted the square. Carnival had ended and the people in the costumes had gone home. A flock of pigeons fluttered about the cobblestones, picking at the orange peels, squashed grapes, torn ribbons, and feathers. There was no sign of the flood except for some patches of seaweed. Jack turned and looked up at the clock tower. The morning sun cast a rosy light over the lion's body. The lion stood with pride and dignity, watching St. Mark's Square, his great powers a secret to everyone but Jack and Annie. "Thanks again," Annie said to the lion. "Yeah, thanks," said Jack. Then he said, "Home?" Annie nodded. As they headed across the square, 2 sweepers were cleaning up the carnival. "Wow," said Annie. She ran to the sweepers. Just as they were about to scoop up a pile of trash, she snatched something from the ground. Annie ran back. "Look," she said. It was Teddy and Kathleen's book of rhymes. "Great," said Jack. He shook the book from her. He took the book I do this at least once a week. He took the book from her and shook it. It was damp from the floodwaters, but the writing was clear. "Well, we have 8 rhymes left," said Jack, "for the next 3 journeys." He dropped the rhyme book into his backpack. As they left the square, they saw Venice starting to wake up. Ordinary, everyday Venice, not the Venice of Carnival. Men, women, and children were opening stalls and putting out goods to sell. Cobblers set up their workbenches and cats stretched in the chilly sun. The old man was walking his fat dog Rosa and waved at them. "No one knows Venice was almost destroyed," said Jack. And no one knows we helped her, said Annie. They just think we're a couple of raggedy clowns. Jack smiled. He forgot they were wearing their carnival costumes. Now they were dirty, torn, and wet. Their hats were gone, and somewhere in the floodwaters Jack had lost his slippers, or the bows on his slippers. How are we getting to the treehouse, said Annie. Dunno, said Jack. I guess we'll find a boat to take us. As they scanned the waterfront, Jack saw a boy sitting at the edge of the water on a small stool, and he was painting. Hey, isn't that Lorenzo? Said Jack. He and Annie hurried over. Hi, Lorenzo, said Annie. He glanced up and smiled. Oh, hello, Annie and Jack. They looked at Lorenzo's painting. It showed pink light shimmering in blue water. That's beautiful, said Annie. It's only the background, said Lorenzo. Soon I will add gondolas and people. Then I'll probably add something not real at all, just for my imagination. Hey, guess what, said Annie. We actually saw Neptune last night. You did, said Lorenzo. Yeah, he was far out at sea, said Jack. He looked just like he did in your dad's painting. We wrote to him on the back of the flying lion from the clock tower, said Annie. Lorenzo nodded. Well, I'm glad Neptune still lives in the sea, he said, and I'm glad our lion still flies. Many people believe all magic has left the world. The magic will never leave, said Annie. Not like if painters like you and your dad keep it alive. Lorenzo looked thoughtful. Then he picked up his canvas and handed it to Jack. You and Annie take this and finish it, he said. Paint what you saw on your visit to Venice. You sure? Said Jack. Yes, said Lorenzo. You have a gift of imagination. Use it to make something magical. We will, said Annie. Thank you, said Jack. We'll paint as soon as we get home. Hey, Jack, said Annie. She pointed to a gondola. It looked like the same boat that brought them to Carnival the night before. Inside were the same two people, the one with the gondolier, and the one with the lantern. Their candle had gone out, but they were both still wearing the black cloak, white gloves, and masks. Maybe they can take us to the treehouse, said Jack. Excuse me, said Annie. Can you give us a ride back to that island? She pointed across the water. The gondolier nodded. Great, said Annie. Bye, Lorenzo. Thank you. Then she and Jack hurried to the landing where the gondola waited. Chapter 9. A Painting. The gondolier silently helped Jack and Annie into the boat. Then he untied the gondola and pushed off. As it glided through the shallow waters, Jack looked at Venice. Bathed in the early sunlight, the grand lady of the lagoon did seem timeless. The gondola moved around the bend and up the narrow canal near the walled garden. The gondolier tied the boat to a striped pole. Then he offered his gloved hand to Annie to help her out. Annie climbed out, and the gondolier offered it to Jack. As the gondolier helped Jack onto the landing, the boat rocked. Jack tripped and accidentally pulled off the gondolier's hand. Or glove. Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't pull off his hand. Woo, that would have been crazy. Oh, sorry, said Jack. As he handed the glove back, he gasped. On the gondolier's finger was a pale blue glass ring. Before Jack could say anything, the gondolier pulled his glove back on and pushed the boat away. Hey, Jack said. Teddy? Kathleen, no, wait! But neither of the masked people looked at them. Teddy and Kathleen? Where? Said Annie. The glove. It just came off his finger. It was like a blue glass finger glove thing. Jack and Annie watched the gondola disappear into the sunlight. Had it glided around a bend, or did it vanish? Are you sure it was them? Said Annie. I guess anybody could wear a ring, said Jack, but still. Maybe they told him to watch over us, Merlin and Morgan. Yeah, maybe, just to be sure we'd be safe, said Jack. And be patient and follow directions, said Annie. Right, said Jack. Well, Venice wasn't destroyed, so I guess we passed the test. I think we did, said Annie. With Lorenzo's canvas under his arm, Jack led the way into the garden, and Annie followed him up to the rope ladder. When they climbed into the treehouse, Jack put Merlin's letter from his backpack out. He unfolded it and pointed to the words Frog Creek. I wish we could go there, he said. Bye, Grand Lady of the Lagoon, said Annie. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. A nippy wind rustled the Frog Creek trees. They were back in jeans and jackets, and it was dawn. Annie sighed. I wish we had more time in Venice, she said. I'm glad Lorenzo gave us his painting to finish it, said Jack. It'll be like living our trip all over. Cool, said Annie. We'd better leave Morgan's research book here, said Jack. He pulled the book out and put it on the floor. And this, he said, with the book of magic rhymes. Wait, said Annie. Don't you think we should take the book of rhymes with us for safekeeping? Jack nodded. We can't use them in Frog Creek, he said, but we can keep it safe. That's what I was thinking, said Annie. Let's get back before Mom and Dad wake up. Jack put the book of rhymes into his pack, and carrying Lorenzo's canvas, Annie climbed down the ladder. Jack followed. Okay, sorry for that random break. My mom was going grocery shopping this morning, and she had to call me because there was yeast, and there was toilet paper, and there was baking powder at the store, and she's going to bring me some so I can make bread, which is very exciting. So I had to pause in our reading so I could hear about the adventures of my parents going grocery shopping. It's very important. My mom says hi, by the way. Okay, let's keep going. So, as they walked through the chilly dawn woods, Annie held up Lorenzo's canvas. The shimmering light and waters of Venice looked just like they had in real life. So what should we do with our painting? She asked. Well, gondolas, of course, said Jack, and people in costumes, wearing black capes, bird masks, fancy dresses, and wigs, said Annie. We could paint the clock tower in the background, said Jack, with the 2 men hitting the bell. And the watchtower, said Annie, with the gold angel. And the ruler's palace, said Jack. And the old man and Rosa walking along the canal, and of course Lorenzo. And the lion flying across the sky, said Jack, with Neptune's spear rising out of the water. And Neptune himself peeking out, said Annie, just the top of his head and his mysterious eyes. That's a lot for one painting, said Jack. We didn't even put ourselves in yet, said Annie. We'll put ourselves in the back of the lion, said Jack, wearing our clown suits and red slippers. With huge smiles on our faces, said Annie, like we're thinking, wow, wow, wow! Jack laughed. A chilly dawn breeze swept through the bare trees. The bells of the Frog Creek Church began to chime, and Jack and Annie took off, running for home. What do you think would be the most important things for them to include in a painting about Venice? If you were to paint about Venice in this story, what do you think would be the most important things to include? And that is the end of our story. So we are all finished. A couple of facts about Venice. It is called the Timeless City because a lot of it has been preserved through time for so long. The Festival of Carnival goes back over 1,000 years in Venice, but it was most popular during the early 1700s. Gondolas have glided along the waterways of Venice for over 1,000 years. In the 1700s, there were about 14,000 on the canals. Oh, okay, so I was correct, actually. The guard uniform, I was wrong. The guard uniform is correct. I was thinking this was 1400s. This is 1700s, so the guard's uniform is accurate. Today, there are around 400 gondolas. St. Mark the Apostle is the patron saint of Venice. According to the legend, the saint's corpse was stolen from its grave and brought to Venice in the 9th century. Since the traditional symbol of St. Mark is a winged lion, this image is depicted all over the city in paintings. In Venice, there are approximately 3,000 alleys and 200 canals, with 400 bridges connecting 118 islands. Many world-famous painters are from Venice. Giovanni Battista Tiepolo is considered the most important of the 1700s, and his 2 sons, Giodomenico and Lorenzo, are also painters. Neptune is the Roman counterpart of the sea god Poseidon from Greek mythology, so you might have heard of Poseidon. Neptune's 3-pronged fish spear is called a trident, told you. When astronomers named the planet Neptune, they chose the trident to be its symbol. So, cool facts. See, I know more about Venice in the 1400s because I played a game that took place in the 1400s. But anyways, okay, well, toodaloo, have a great weekend. Bye!